Changes on the way in Clay County. The sheriff's office is already dealing with substantial growth. Now the school district has made the decision to send on-campus policing back to the county. Sheriff Michelle Cook joins us as we look at the latest initiatives underway too. There's progress on the Emerald Trail in Jacksonville, with local leaders asking for help from Washington. We're opening up the discussion with City Council's Jimmy Peluso on This Week in Jacksonville. And we're so glad to have you with us today. And with us today is Clay County Sheriff Michelle Cook. Sheriff, I want to say welcome back. We were just talking about it. It's been a little bit since we got to do this.
It's been several years, yes.
So definitely time for this. And so wanted to have a visit with you. And then this week, we see something happen here, a development that I knew we'd want to hear from you about. Clay County School Board reversing course from just 4 years ago. They want the sheriff's office, not their own school district police force. So how does that set with you? And did you know this was coming?
Yeah, I did. So, last year when there was school board elections and there was a couple of candidates specifically that were talking about reverting the school district police back to the sheriff's office. So I knew at least it was on a couple of people's minds. And then I got a phone call that said, hey, we're serious about doing this. And I'm like, absolutely, we're up to the challenge. If that's the decision the school board makes, the Clay County Sheriff's Office is definitely up to the challenge. So we worked together, pulled some numbers together, had some meetings with Superintendent Broski, and then ultimately it was the Clay County School Board in a 4-to-1 vote that is sending the school police responsibilities back over to the Sheriff's Office.
So for those of us who aren't in the weeds on a decision like this and don't maybe understand the structure or the cost or that sort of thing, what are the pluses and minuses for a parent in the school district or for Joe average citizen in Clay County?
Yeah, I think for parents, and I want to make one thing really clear, and I know I speak for Superintendent Broski when I say this, kids are going to be kept safe in Clay County, okay? And so the pluses are we have depth of services, we have depth of capabilities, we have depth of personnel. We have, our radio channels, and if there's a crime, we have crime scene technicians. We have all of those capabilities in place. The school district police had the officers in the schools, but as far as the depth of capabilities, typically your school districts, your smaller school districts like Clay County, don't have the depth of the capabilities. So now when we have a deputy in the school, they will have immediate access to whether it's a victim's advocate, a detective, a crime scene technician. All of that will be at their disposal with just one phone call or one call on the radio.
Is this comparing apples and oranges? Duval County has a school district police force.
Right.
There's Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. But those are both massive entities compared to how many folks are involved in the school district and in law enforcement for Clay County, right?
Yeah, and they are. And so different school district police departments are set up differently. I think there's about 15 in the state. And so each county has the opportunity to build the school district police and the sheriff's office out to what they want, what their community demands. And I haven't been involved with JS or the Duval County School Police Department, but I do know that they're a very large agency as well. And in Clay County, we weren't quite there yet. We have 43 schools. There's about 50 total employees for the school police district in Clay County. And so our goal is to just transition those folks under the green uniform, and then they'll, like I said, have immediate access to all of the capabilities and depth that we have at the Sheriff's Office.
Yeah, I'll show you a little bit of video from the meeting, the eventual vote the other day in Clay County when it comes to the school district, and the board members talking through this. I know there was some discussion about financial implications and liability, but the sheriff just mentioned the superintendent. I want to hear from David Broski here. We spoke to him right after the vote more than a week ago.
That's a decision of the board, that was done before my time as superintendent here. I found the men and women that work for our police department to be good folks, working hard, diligent for the safety of students. The board could make a different decision. Now, my role as superintendent is moving forward, right? We all move forward. Student safety is job one in Clay County. It always was and always will be as a result of this.
Sheriff, reiterating the point that you made, whether there's a school district police force or it's the sheriff's office, those students are going to be the priority.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Superintendent Broski and I, even before this vote, have had and always will have a good working relationship. And we had a great working relationship with the school district police officers. You know, at the end of the day, you know, you asked me, how do I feel about this? And you know, we're in the business of law enforcement. We're in the business of policing. And you know, the school district is in the business of education. So for me, it makes sense that the board would choose to move the school policing responsibility back to the sheriff's office.
Let's shift topics a little bit. We know Clay County continues to grow a lot, and that led us, as we were preparing for today, just to kind of bounce some ideas. What are the biggest challenges that you're facing now as the Clay County Sheriff?
You know, for us, it's growth. It's just the amount of people that are coming in. It's the amount of traffic that we're seeing. Clay County is very safe, but a lot of people are moving in, and so we have to stay on top of continuing the level of service that our community expects, and keeping the county safe, which we're doing. And I will say this, our county administrators, our Board of County Commissioners, our county manager, they've been great partners with us as we see developments coming in, projecting dates of when they'll start. The developments will start and they'll be built out. And we're adding additional deputies to the street. And since I've been in office for 3 years, we've added over 30 deputies. I think we're up to 34 deputies, new deputies to the streets of Clay County to continue to keep Clay County safe.
Yeah, I've got some questions on adding deputies and some other things, and we do still have questions because we don't get to speak with the sheriff often enough. So we're inviting her to stay for another segment. We're going to talk about what she may say to potential new hires, potential deputies in the sheriff's office. All of that coming up next on This Week in Jacksonville.
You're watching This Week in Jacksonville with Kent Justice.
And thanks for staying with us. Clay County's top law enforcement officer is with us, Sheriff Michelle Cook. Sheriff, I want to hear what staffing is like in Clay County. I know you just mentioned a moment ago you've been adding officers. We understand that many law enforcement agencies throughout the country, throughout the state, have a tough time either hiring new or retaining officers or deputies.
You know, I am so proud of the work we've done in Clay County. When it comes to the sworn patrol deputies, we don't have a staffing issue. We have been able to go out and recruit and hire and train some incredible men and women who are coming into our agency. You know, I was mentioning about the way we recruit people, and it really is different. We do almost like a concierge service when we recruit somebody. We assign them to a person who walks them through the hiring process. In addition to that, some bonus money that we had available. And right now, our sworn vacancy rate is less than 4%.
How does that compare with other folks? Because you're part of the Sheriff's Association in Florida. How would other sheriff's offices handle that, or are they dealing with a bigger number than that? You
know, I think it varies from county to county. I will tell you, I've gotten several phone calls asking, how are you able to do that? But I think that our approach of competitive pay and a positive work culture and a community that loves its law enforcement really is the trifecta for us in Clay County.
One of the things people point to when they determine, hey, I'm going to move here or in that area or whatever, is schools. And we just spent a lot of time talking about schools and policing and the connection between the sheriff's office. Does that add a layer of retention for folks that you hire as well? Hey, I'm going to stay here because if I've got family, if I've got children in the school system, Clay County schools are good too. Yeah,
it does. And so, you know, not only do we need to recruit people to come to Clay County to work, but we say we want them to live, work, and play all in Clay. And so, you know, the combination of a great school system, very safe community, and we're large enough that we have a lot going on, but we're also small enough we still feel like a hometown. And for us, we're able to not only recruit people, but we have very few people leaving our agency to go somewhere else.
So what about that younger person who says, hey, I'm considering being a law enforcement officer? How do you advise them? What do you say that may nudge them to do it or find out maybe that's not my chosen career?
You know, it's interesting that you asked that. I don't hear a whole lot of I'm interested in law enforcement. What I hear a lot is I'm interested in making my community better. And so my challenge to those young people is there is no better way to make your community better than to be boots on the ground in the law enforcement world. I mean, when we encounter somebody, it's typically when they are at the worst moment of their life. And if you truly want to have an impact on somebody's life, their future, and your community, the best way to do that is to become a law enforcement officer.
That's the right mentality, right? I mean, we hear about, when we have to report on the terrible stories where something goes wrong and a law enforcement officer doesn't act the right way, we hear, hey, by and large, that's not who we are in the law enforcement community. Mm-hmm. That's the mentality that you're looking for, right? Hey, how do I really connect and help people?
Yeah, I mean, law enforcement can be dangerous. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, right? I'm going into my 32nd year in law enforcement. Law enforcement can be dangerous, but the vast majority of what we do is helping people, communicating with people, and keeping our communities safe. And it's such a noble profession, and it really is. I challenge people who say, I want to make the world a better place. Become a police officer if you really want to make the world a better place. I want
to hear about some of the things that the Clay County Sheriff's Office is doing in terms of initiatives where you're trying to connect with the community and make the world a better place.
Well, we have one of the things that we started a couple of years ago that we have great success with is our senior newsletter. I was talking to a group of seniors and we were talking about, they asked me, how do we keep up with what you're doing? And I said, well, go on social media, go on. And they're like, we don't have social media.
Unlikely they're going to social media.
Yeah. So we created a senior newsletter, and it's on a big piece of paper, and it's large font. And every month or so, we put out an in-depth story about the great work that's going on at the Clay County Sheriff's Office. That's one way we do a day as a deputy, which is, we did it this week. It has been so effective and so much fun, and we invite citizens to come in, and they get to put on a gun belt and a vest, and we put them in scenarios, and they have to make split-second decisions about what they're going to do, and then we put a microphone in their face and pretend that we're media and say, why did you do that? And so it's a real eye-opener. Yeah, right. So it's a real eye-opener, and so that we have a lot of success with that, a lot of great feedback, and then we also still do the traditional police academy. Or Citizens Academy, where citizens can come in for 10 weeks, and it's a long-term, in-depth look at every facet of the agency. So that's really.
And what's the benefit of something like that, a Citizens Academy?
Well, I think, Kent, what you see is TV programs have really driven what people perceive to be law enforcement, and they're not accurate. And the benefit of a Citizens Academy is twofold. One, they get to see behind the scenes of how we actually do things, and two, and this was what I really like, they can ask any question they want. Why can't you shoot the gun out of their hand? Why can't you shoot them in the knee? How come you can't de-escalate everything? And so that 10-week-long program really allows us to build relationships with these community members and gives them the opportunity to ask them the questions that they want to ask.
Yeah. So let's wrap up here. You mentioned, hey, senior newsletter, but how are you communicating, broadly speaking, with the community? Is it on social media? Are there other ways that you're?
Yeah, so we have, I'm very active on social media with my Sheriff Michelle Cook page, and that's really my way to message out to the greater community. We have the Clay County Sheriff's Office Facebook page. We have the Join Clay County Sheriff's Office page. We have the Clay County Bolo page. We have our website. We're on X, and I just have a young person now that's put us on TikTok. So we're out there in the traditional and non-traditional social media platforms.
Yeah, and making an appearance on This Week in Jacksonville from time to time.
Yes, sir.
Sheriff, thanks so much for the time today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, well, here are the topics, by the way. The Emerald Trail, Jaguars Stadium, no-bid contracts. We've been working through the list trying to introduce you to each of the new city council members in Duval County. We're excited to have Jimmy Peluso with us. That's next on This Week in Jacksonville.
You're watching This Week in Jacksonville on Channel 4.
And right now we welcome Jimmy Peluso to the set. This is the first time that we've had a conversation like this. This is Jacksonville's District 7 City Council member, so welcome. And Councilman, this is great to have you. Start with a topic that I tackled last week on the show with Chris Hand in our Hand on Government contract. He's a former chief of staff in the city, as you know. He weighed in last week on the reporting that Mayor Donna Deegan's administration awarded a no-bid contract contract to a firm that supported her election. So let's talk about this issue, because it's not just the most recent thing that we saw with the mayor's office. Sure. There's some complaints that, hey, maybe the sheriff's office did this with the jail health care situation. City council has come under fire at times about awarding no-bid contracts. Where do you stand on this topic?
So the first thing I want to say is, A, thank you for having me on the show, but also this is a single bid contract. So some people may call it no bid, but that's really not what it's called. In our procurement manual, this is known as a single bid. Our new procurement chief actually spoke in front of the finance committee and sort of really talked about what this process looks like. And you're right, everyone's been using it throughout several years. Yeah. You know, there's dozens upon dozens of these contracts, and the mayor just did what everyone else would do in that situation. And frankly, we needed to get somebody at the federal level to do these grants, and this is an incredible organization that's done it in several different cities throughout our state. And for every day we don't have somebody working on these grants, we're missing out on federal dollars. So this was something that the mayor should have done, and I'm glad she did.
So define the difference. You said no bid, single bid. What's the difference for Joe Blow citizen who says, hey, is this right? Is this the best thing for our city and my tax dollars? Sure,
certainly. So as I understand it, there really is no bid. A single bid contract, what happens is our procurement team says, hey, this is the group that we're going to select. Then there's 7 days of public comment. So a member of the city council, a member of the public can say, hey, I don't like this. If that is done, and then the procurement department needs to bring that up to the committee. And we went through 7 days, no one said a word. Then it went before the finance committee, and no one really said a word. So, I mean, this is just one of those things where I think people are trying to make hay of an issue when there really isn't anything to be talking about.
Shouldn't there be an issue if there are single bid contracts awarded when we don't know if that's the best bid or the best service, or, fill in the blank? Again, I think just for maybe transparency, accountability part of it.
Look, accountability is a major and important factor that the mayor has, brought forward to us. She talked about that during the campaign. Sure. And I definitely don't see this as something that's, some dangerous, she went too far kind of a thing. Not at all. In fact, we are still going to have a bid next year. This is a firm that we knew did the work, knows how to do the work. And so, the mayor did a judgment call, and she did the right thing, if you ask me. We're going to get a really good group that's going to bring in a lot of federal dollars.
Well, there was a good group that was in D.C. talking about some federal dollars when it comes to the Emerald Trail. We know this last week, Mayor Deegan and Groundwork Jacks and others went to Washington. Part of that trip included fighting for some federal funding here, but we see these images, the Emerald Trail. We hear, hey, this is going to be transformational. Do you believe in this effort, and what's the payoff for taxpayers on this?
Well, there's no question this will be transformational. We're seeing a lot of our peer cities and cities across the United States really start doubling down on ways to make their cities more bikeable and walkable and more environmentally friendly. I mean, this is it. We're going to be bringing in a ton of brand new pedestrian and bikeable systems throughout our city. And we've got Kate Ehas, who's the CEO of Groundwork Jacks. We have Nat Ford, he's the JTA CEO. And then we had the mayor sign an MOU last week, which really showed that their partnership is strong and it will remain strong in the years to come. We're going to execute on that, and we're going to make sure that this project gets done. They went up to D.C., and I know they were fighting for a massive grant. Yeah. And if you ask them, they said that they had some really good conversations.
Some of the comments I'd seen from them were like, we think this was really successful. One of the topics I wanted to get to, the Jaguars Stadium of the future. Yep. So here we are, Councilman, the process, the bid process for potential stadium renovations. It's got some deadlines, including one that was on the pre-bid conference this week. What can you tell us about this process, and what do you want to see happen?
Well, what I can tell you about the process is, we're entrusting the mayor's office to be sort of the lead negotiator. Now, the city council does have a negotiator as well that we actually did a single bid contract for, to go back to the first thing we were mentioning. But this is going to be, again, another major transformational project that a lot of people are excited about, and it's in my district. District 7 houses the current stadium. Now, we also have the east side, which is directly north of the stadium. We want to make sure that anything that's going to be done involving the stadium is going to work with the communities that it's adjacent to make sure that we're not pushing anybody out, and to make sure that we are going to do something in the best interest of the communities that in many cases have been ignored in this city. And I've already gotten assurances from the mayor's office and frankly the Jaguars that yes, we care about these communities that are directly to the north and to the west of us. You know, we just want to make sure that this is going to be a deal that everyone wins. And I think there's real potential for that. You know, my conversations with the Jaguars have all been incredibly good. My conversations with our negotiators have been very positive. And I'm just hoping that if we do something like, oh, we're still going to have a game in London every year, it'd be great if we can find a way to make sure the taxpayer also gets some money off of that. You know, if they're going to make money going to another place and play, you know, it'd be great if we could find a method in which we get something out of that too. And you do stuff like that, and I think, you know, all of a sudden now, no taxpayer really gets mad at this. And I understand some people are a little bit timid when it comes to this deal.
Sure, because it's a big number on what's going to happen here. Before we run out of time, we've got about a minute less to talk about this. You wanted to talk about the special committee on JSO's primary facilities.
Yep.
That's in the district too.
Absolutely. So we've obviously got the jail, the pre-detention center, and the police memorial building. Yeah. And so we're talking about now, you know, what does the future of that building and that structure look like? Obviously, it has beautiful waterfront property, and nobody really wants to see a government building sitting right there, you know, in great prime real estate. On top of that, it's an aging structure. So I'm in charge of the subcommittee that's working on adjudication, intake of our inmates, and then recidivism and rehabilitation. Because frankly, if we are going to be building another jail, and if you ask me, there's a strong likelihood of that, we want to make sure that we're really looking at how do we ensure that whoever goes through this thing never comes back? How do we make sure that we have individuals coming out of our facility and becoming better members of society? So
I'm going to have to cut you off
please,
just because we're out of time. But I want you to come back. This has been great. Great to get to introduce you to our viewers and get to hear from you today, Councilman. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Kent.
All right. So as we wrap up today, I want to let you know that we've launched a brand new version of This Week in Jacksonville. It's called Business Edition. It's a streaming podcast and focuses on economic development in the River City and our region. This week's episode looks at veterans and their impact on the economy. You can find new episodes every Thursday at 9 a.m. I'm Kent Justice. Thanks for watching This Week in Jacksonville.
See why every day more people are choosing News 4 Jax, Northeast Florida and South Georgia's #1 source for local news.